Hi, everyone. Welcome to A Better Future Starts Here, a live weekly show brought to you by the American Society for the Positive Care of Children. We are America's voice for children, bringing you industry experts and organizations that will ensure that children are raised in a safe environment and become healthy, happy leaders of tomorrow. Today, we have with us industry expert Jason Hodge, otherwise known as the Jason Hodge. Let me read a little bit about Jason. He's a consultant, a media strategist, and an innovation expert who is building a legacy of helping individuals articulate their authentic stories, reach their marketplace with impact, and provide sustainability producing solutions that benefit the up-and-coming generations. He's a writer, director, producer, and former interim program director at Time Warner Communications. Jason is a faithpreneur and recent recipient of the Faithpreneur Weekend 2020 Legacy Gala Leadership Award. Jason is also a single dad who spends much of his time raising his 4 boys and still serves kids and families in marginalized communities, developing virtual foundational training to help bridge the digital divide. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jason, to talk about creating 100 days of value. It's great to see you.
I'm glad to be here, Tracy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is really exciting. So first of all, congratulations on your Faithpreneur Award.
Thank
you. I
you.
would be remiss not to give you that. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you are an entrepreneur, a single dad, and you develop programs in Title I schools as well as in the businesses, and you're doing amazing, wonderful things in the community. Tell us about your current project of developing 100 days of value.
Okay. That kind of came about as, I don't want to call it a fluke because I believe that everything has a reason and a purpose and things don't just happen by coincidence. I always think that there's like the divine design.
Yeah.
But this started because there was one lady who jumped onto one of our calls that we were syndicating into Clubhouse. And she was talking about how she was a podcaster. And she kind of lost her edge and wanted to get back into doing that. So, we had a back channel conversation. I was like, okay, so what are the constraints? And so she was like, well, so she kind of gave me the backdrop of it. And what ended up happening was I said, okay, you know what? You can do this. You just need to pull the trigger. So if I can give you an assignment. And she's like, okay. I said, okay, I want for the next 100 days you to go live and to do a video. I said, it doesn't have to be anything other than you're going live to get in, to get yourself going.
Sure.
And I said, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it with you. So I'm going to do 100 days of value, and that way every day that I do a video, it's going to be value based. I don't know what it's going to be, but I want to prove to you that it doesn't have to be where you overthink it. Just do it. And she's like, okay. So that's how that started. And now it's been taken off where more people are like, I want to do 100 days of value. I was like, do it. Let's do it.
Wow. So, it's like a whole movement, 100 days of value movement. I love
about it. We get so much garbage, and I don't want to disparage anything or anybody, but there's so much negativity out there. And I'm like, you know what? What can we do to put some positivity in the space so that people can go to the hashtag 100 days of value and find something that can benefit their life for the day. So that was my premise behind that.
I love it. I love that you said positivity because last week we interviewed David Long from Pandemic of Positivity. So this is such a great follow-up with the 100 days of value. Wow. And Jason, I think it's so exceptional how this all started so organically, almost like a dare, almost like a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's how some of the greatest things start off, right?
It is.
Well, tell us some of the things that people are talking about. Like, what are some of the things that are affecting, families even?
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed, like when I first started following, my partner in crime, hers is 4 Girls Love, I believe. And Yeah, and so I think she's got 4 girls,
You've got
and
4 boys. She's
I
got
got
4
4
boys.
boys, yep. And then so, I forget what her husband does. She's like, I think like a polymath. She does a lot of good things. She knows how to do a lot of things, and so just taking all of that and weaving it into the story of her. But I found that she really had a heart for family. And I was like, this is great. I said,
Yeah.
because family gives you so much content. So she would
Mhm.
get on and live stream with her daughters. And for
Oh,
me, when you can get your family involved in stuff, like every now and then my boys will come in, like there's like a couple where they're on there with me doing the 100 Days of Value.
sure.
And yeah, I think that when you can get your family involved in stuff, then it becomes very natural to them. So they don't even realize that they're participating in entrepreneurship. They're just moving with it, and then that becomes the norm.
Yeah.
I want my kids to be the norm of I normally will start my own enterprise, not I normally will have to go to school to figure out how to get a job, maybe from somebody, maybe. I want them to know whenever I want to create something, I
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
Yeah. Using their creative imagination.
With
And,
imagination.
and that goes hand in hand with not waiting on other people to give you
Exactly.
an offering, but to take the bull by the horns.
Exactly. Exactly. And we have to do that. And this goes from from the young to the old. We're all kids at heart, really. And so we've got to look at we've all been given, like I like to say, like these gifts, right? It's like this package of talents. And if we don't apply them, we lose them. So
Yeah.
I don't think that so long as you're drawing breath, that it's ever too late. You just have to decide to make a move on your stuff. Create your own platform. Figure
Yeah.
it out along the way. Have fun. Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are totally speaking my language because I am all about leveraging your time and your talents the right way, right? And forming teams. And it's so great. It's so
Yeah.
great. The whole concept of live streaming with your kids. And,
Mm-hmm.
it really comes so natural to them because you see all of these YouTubers that
Mm-hmm.
are live streaming and all of a sudden they have like 5 million people following them because they're playing
Right.
a game on, and I'm talking, for the kids, right?
Right.
All the kids are following these gamers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the kids aren't playing, but they're watching someone else play. So it's like 5
Right.
million people watching someone play a game. Like,
Yeah.
hey, that's a pretty nice gig. So
Yeah.
meanwhile,
For
it
the
comes
gamer, you know?
right for the YouTuber.
Right.
What I'm saying. So it comes so natural for the kids, like it's very second nature,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
to live stream with them, it's something to do with them, it's something for them to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
So you love storytelling,
I love
right?
it.
You love media, you have a passion for
Yeah.
serving others. Tell us where this all stemmed from.
When I was younger, I had an aunt. Well, she's still here. So, but as a young boy, um, one of my mother's sisters, our aunt, she was every time that we would go over her house, there was always something educational. She was an educator, amongst other things. And so when we would spend the night over there and visit with our cousins, because she had 4 cousins around our age, so we were the motley crew.
Yeah.
We would go over there and then we would watch things like documentaries, and those mini dramas. I remember we saw this show, The Man Who Stole the Bread, which
Oh.
in my adult life, I realized that was an extract or an excerpt from Les Miserables. And I was like, I didn't know that as
Ah.
a kid. So when I saw part of Les Mis, I was like, that looks mighty familiar. And I
Yeah.
realized the man who stole the bread. Oh, it was that. So it took me all the way back there. But the documentaries, Wild Kingdom, we got into all of that. And somewhere in there, story became critical to me. I believe that everything is story. I don't
Yeah.
care how technical it is, there's always a story attached to it. There's always a big why. And if you could tap into that big why, that's like the key to having your business, your enterprise really go into the marketplace where you totally obliterate the competition because your
Mhm.
story is always going to be your story. And
Yeah.
if we can get kids in that habit of really understanding their story and how they see things, how they perceive things, and then dive into the core of that, they'd be unstoppable. So that's what I
Beautiful.
endeavor to do in my programs is to help kids come out of their shell or not go into a shell by having them get in front of the camera, having them explain in dialogue, having them interview each other while they're learning how to cook, while they're learning how to go through the process of getting things ready, and then seeing them take over. I love it when my kids in the program totally shove me out of the way, says, "We got this, Mr. Jason." And I'm like, go
They've
for it.
got it.
They've
They've got
got it.
it. You
Yeah,
can't ask for better than that. They've got it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Let's do a
And
shout
you know
out.
what? I'll say this, and then I'm going to button it up for a moment. The kids, when they start out and they're so nervous, like, I mean, the first week they're like, I don't want the camera, like, get it out of my face. The
Mhm.
second week they're like, what, what are you doing there, Mr. Jason? Third week they're like, can I use the camera? And I was like, sure. Fourth week, they're interviewing each other. By the fifth week, they're like, okay, yeah. Now they're calling the shots on the interview. Okay, no, you know what? Do this instead. By the time we get to the halfway point of the year, they're presenting to their schools or their community, and they're talking about the stuff that they've learned. By the time we get to the end of the year, they're like, yeah, give me the mic. And they're up there, no nervousness, and they're just, I mean, going all in. And I'm like, wow. And I've seen that consistently over the years that I've been doing the program. It's amazing.
What I especially admire about that program is the fact that
Mhm.
most people, their number one fear,
Yeah.
you would think it would be death. It's not, it's public
Right.
speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And this introduces kids to
Yeah.
public speaking from a young age so that
Young
they
age.
don't have that fear. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the most important skills that you can have in business is
Mm-hmm.
public speaking. So getting kids focused on these
Yeah.
types of skills at such a young age is really tremendous, really
Yeah.
wonderful.
And you know what, Tracy, I would even venture to say this. I think people think that the number one fear is public speaking. The number one fear is actually rejection.
Ooh, so you're attaching the you just unpacked that for us, didn't
Yeah.
you? You
Yeah.
attached the emotion of what they
Yeah.
feel
What they feel.
or
And
what they
they don't want to
fear,
risk the rejection. So
what
they're
they
like, oh
feel.
my gosh, public speaking. If I get up there and I'm rejected, I'm going to be ridiculed. I will never live this down. It becomes a public record. So, and I have a way of getting past that to where you
Mm,
don't get nervous when you are talking to people on stage, on camera, whatever. And
yeah.
I have this saying that I tell all my clients, service cures the nervous. If you are in ultimate service, you don't get nervous. I've never seen a fireman get nervous about going into a building because they're like, oh my gosh, I've got spinach in my teeth. I just was finishing eating and I came over to this fire and oh, like my hair is not right. I can't go in there to rescue this person. And when you look at your story as a means to rescue those in a burning building, you totally switch modes and you're like, I got to get them. My story is going to help them. So I got to tell it.
I can relate to that because as a public speaking coach, I always share with the clients that it's more important that your audience receives the message than for you
Mm,
to focus on your own nervousness. But I love that catchy phrase, the way you said it,
yeah.
service kills the nervous.
Yep.
That is
Cures.
gold.
Yes. Service
Cures.
cures the nervous.
Service
Yeah.
cures the nervous. That
Yeah.
is gold. That is
Yeah.
fire. Love that.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing your 100 days of value on?
I don't even have it planned out.
Mm,
And yeah, and I did that on purpose because sometimes we get stymied by the planning. I know because I get stymied by planning all the time. I'm a media planner and I literally plan out people's media, not just like media
mm,
buying, but like, okay, what are you saying? What is your story? What angle? What do you want to accomplish with this? And so in the planning, sometimes you can get so detailed oriented
mm.
that you get stuck on those details and then you don't move. And I wanted to help all of those people who normally get stuck on details. It's like, well, I don't have I'm on my 99. I can't go until I have the 100th one put down. And it's like, no, sometimes you have to just move and you have to trust that what's in you is going to come out and deliver the impact that it was designed to deliver. So I have no idea what I'm going to do when I turn on the camera. I just go. And if I mess up, I'm like, great. Now you can see that a mess up won't kill you. It'll actually make you more human. And people say, if you can do it, I can do it. I don't always shave up and everything before I go on. Sometimes you'll just see me, I'm in my scrubbies talking. My kids are in the background doing their video games or writing their stories or whatever. And I'm doing a live video because I want to normalize being normal.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm okay with being normal.
Normalize being
Yeah,
normal. Did our audience hear that?
yeah, yeah.
Normalize being
Being
normal.
normal. We
That
don't
is
have to always be on. Yeah.
wow, wow, wow. You're a dad, you're an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
you're managing content for
Mm-hmm.
clients,
Mm-hmm.
you're serving your community.
Mm-hmm.
The big question, how do you balance it all?
I don't try to balance it. I
Mhm.
realize that for me, balance would mean now I've got to go to the drafting board and plan it all out again, and then I can get stuck. I already know the vortex of getting stuck in planning, because I put together like I'm looking at my whiteboard right now, just off to the side.
Oh,
And I'm seeing all of the plans. I'm like, wow, that's awesome, and none of that happened. It looks great, but none of it happened. So that was like 3 days worth of planning work. And then I'm like, and then the stuff that happened organically, you have to be able to just pivot on things. And I'm not saying that you don't have a framework. You do have a framework. You do have those things that, it's like, this is what I ultimately want to achieve. Now, the
sure.
how is not necessarily up to me because the how, I don't have control of that because things could happen. And if I'm so stuck on this, it's got to be
Mm,
this way, then when things happen, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to, oh my gosh, now what do I do? So I'm like, this is where I want to end up. It may take me one step, it may take me 10 steps, but I'm going to end up here. And I'm just going to continue to flow until I get there. Maybe I need to call people in to get some stuff done. So I just have to relax. And, I trust God in just, okay, so you're going
yeah,
to bring to me what needs to happen when it needs to happen. I'm not going to get caught up in all those details. It's really, quite frankly, none of my business on how it happens, just that it happens. So that's
yes.
where I kind of leave it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Jason, how do you think that parents and caretakers can make a difference in the lives of children?
You know what? We have to be able to let our kids be kids and let them bring the kid out in us.
Hmm.
Because kids, they can do anything. And in their mind, they can be a firefighter and a politician and a doctor and, a building maintenance person and a masonry work or whatever. They can do all of that stuff. And so it's not our job to steal that from them. It's our job to say, okay, well, let's see what fits. What do you gravitate towards? We started out in Montessori when I was coming up, and that was a program that allows the child to kind of find their interests and you just kind of build curriculum around that. You ask certain questions. Oh, so what are you learning there? And if we let our kids do that, and if we let ourselves do that, we'll find that we may not be as interested in the thing, but maybe it's the lesson in the doing of the thing at that time that we need in order to be able to put pieces together in other aspects of life. So sometimes we get so focused on that detail again that we miss the bigger message. The kid needs to explore so that as things are working out internally in their head, they can start putting together their life concept so that they can be successful and they have a broad range of experiences to pull from when they need to problem solve. One of the biggest issues that we have right now is that critical thinking has been removed from our schooling or educational process because they're being told what to do instead of saying, this is what needs to get done. Now, how are you going to go about doing that? And making that okay for them to figure things out. They get graded pass, fail, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then what ends up happening, well, I don't think there's an E in there, but you know what I mean. What ends up happening is that they get so stymied again that I don't want to get an F. So then the focus isn't on the learning. And it really, in school, you should be focused on learning and not on the grades. What are you getting from it? How are you developing? But if I get so stuck in, I don't want to fail this thing, then I'm memorizing in order to not fail, but not learning in order to understand.
Mm.
So I like to have my kids just kind of do their thing so they can understand stuff. And then when we sit around and talk about just life, they get to understand aspects. And we're like, oh, yeah, like we live to where we overlook. I could go out on the balcony right now and overlook the wetlands. And that has
Oh,
provided so many amazing messages. Like when the kids are kind of into some things that maybe not be the best things, I ask them, okay, I said, when you plant stuff, things grow. So, what do you want to see in your wetlands? Is what you just did, what you just participated in, is it something that you could stand to see a field of?
mhm.
Or is it something that you would want to pull out like a weed? And if they say, like, yeah, I wouldn't want that, I'm like, then why are you sowing it now? Why are you planting that now? So it
Wow.
gives them an opportunity to really think of life is interconnected. And if we don't treat life as one set of silos, like each thing just it's contained. Nothing's contained. Everything touches everything. So if they can understand that the decisions, the choices that I make here are going to impact things down the line there or impact people in this way, maybe that'll give them enough pause to think, should I do this or should I not? Because I want to think this thing all the way through. And that's not analysis paralysis, but it's just like being mindful of
Yeah.
what actions are going to produce later. What's that wetlands going to look like for my life later on? You
Yeah,
know?
it sounds like you're training them to be mindful of consequences,
Yes. Yes.
pertaining to choice, but you're also allowing them to see the end goal, to see
Yeah.
the detail, but not to focus on either. It sounds like you're encouraging the
Hmm.
kids to focus on the journey
Right.
and the
Exactly.
experiences.
Exactly. Yes. Because the journey is the learning. The end
Yeah.
goal is not. The end goal is the result of the learning. So if you can focus on that journey, it's like, what are you getting along the way? I mean, and it can be very rich. I learn every day. I make new friends every day. It's amazing. I love it. But if I don't think about it afterwards, I don't know, well, what aspect of me really resonates with this? Because I want more of this. So then what I find is that the more stories that I tell, the more about me that I share, the more I connect with people, the more authentic I am, the more I create these life connections to where it's like, wow, I know I just met you, but it feels like we've known each other all of our lives. And then those become my lifelong friends. It's amazing how that happens.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It also sounds like you help individuals stay focused on what they want as opposed
Hmm.
to what they don't want, because we as rational people, we know what we want, but there's
Hmm.
an irrational side to our
Hmm.
minds that keep us doing the same thing and then wondering why we're not getting what we want. And
Yeah.
it sounds to me like you help individuals keep their eye on the prize, yet take the steps along the way, the journey, to help
Hmm.
get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And to help our kids, stay focused like that. Are these the
Hmm.
results you want? Yes, great. No, why are you planting that seed?
Yeah. Yeah. And Tracy, if I were to boil it down, I would say that I endeavor to have people focus on the why behind the why.
Ooh,
'Cause see,
that's
sometimes our
good
whys, our
stuff.
superficial whys are triggers. Okay. We say, oh, I want to make a lot of money. Okay, but why? Because that extra why, you may find that the reason behind it is not actually your core reason. That reason behind it is because you were triggered and you didn't want to ever look like you didn't have, like you were lacking, like you had an experience and you were like, you made a pact, I will never have this situation happen to me again. And so then you base the activity of your life on not being there. So you're so focused on what you don't want because your why has made what you experienced a bad thing. But if you dig deeper and say, okay, so now if all of that was said and done, I asked this lady this question the other day. I said, all right, you just made mention of, what you want to do and why and all that. I said, and you started out with money. I said, and what I found with people, as they come into means and they're there for a while and they're settled and everything is cool, is that they find that there's an emptiness in that if there wasn't a greater reason.
Mm,
Okay. So, and that's why you see celebrities, they go on these sabbaticals, they're trying to find themselves because it's like, okay, wait a minute, I thought this was going to do it for me. I've got, tens of millions of dollars and I still feel empty. I've got to find something to do where I give my life meaning. So I'm like, well, why wait until you get there to only discover that it's empty without having a bigger reason? So let's start with the why of the why now. And that
ooh,
as you build, you're building on a foundation that is you, it's yours, it's your core. And then as you move forward, you don't have to tear any structures down. But we're finding a lot of people have to tear structures down after the fact, and then they have a choice to make. Do I tear this structure down because I'm like really comfortable here, but it's not what I want? But if I tear this down and I have to start over, what am I going to be? Who am I going to be? How am I going to be identified? So that's that quandary.
right.
And
How am I
yeah,
going to reinvent myself?
reinvent myself. Yeah. And if on the contrast, you say, you know what, let me discover who I am from
Yes.
now so that I don't have to reinvent. I don't have to rebrand. I don't have to re anything because this is just who I am, you know? And I can develop further, I can build upon, but the core is always going to be the core. I don't have to do anything more. This is who I am. I know it. I feel it. I resonate. I move from that place. So then
Yeah.
you can move with power because you already like you're already bought in to who you are. Your who was already established. So that's how I see that. We've got to get down to that place. And the conversations I like to have with my kids, with the kids in my programs and all that is let's get down to, the nitty gritty. And we may not be able to do that in the scope of the program, but the seeds can definitely be planted for them to start thinking, hey,
Sure.
there's something more. And I remember Mr. Jason used to say stuff like this. I want things that I've said to resonate for them to be like, yeah. He always talked about don't be a consumer mindset, be a producer mindset. So if I'm going to buy something, I'm not buying it just for my entertainment. I'm buying it because I'm looking at a process. How did they put this thing together? How did they market this thing? Why was I triggered to buy it? Why are other people triggered to buy certain things? What is it going to do for me and what can I do with it? So start asking these questions. So that's what I like to really focus on in the program. Think.
Incredible.
Yeah.
In- Incredible. And your whole concept of the why behind the why, perfect case in point when we were speaking earlier about public speaking,
Yeah.
right? And when
Mhm.
I mentioned about people have a fear, and then you said it's not a fear,
Right.
you said it's more about the rejection. So that's the why
Right.
behind the why. And
Hmm.
I think that's what you are so good at because I've heard you speak so many times in the clubhouse rooms. And I
Hmm.
have also had many conversations, right? We've had many conversations, and you're
Yes.
so good at distilling and peeling back the layers of the onion and
Hmm.
finding the core value to something or the core messaging or, you know,
Yeah.
really, I love the process that by which you pull things apart.
Hmm.
And I thank you for being able to do that. I admire that type of detailed critical thinking.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this, and you know where I come from, but I have to say to God be the glory on that because He really has given me that gift. That's my gift.
That
That's my,
is,
yeah,
God
yeah,
definitely bestowed that upon you.
yeah.
100%. 100%. So as we're finishing up our interview,
Man, these things go
one
by
of
so fast.
I know, and it's so fun. One of the key questions that I
Uh-huh.
really like to ask most of our guests is, I mean, because we are the American Society for the Positive Care of Children,
Yeah.
how do we stop the cycle of abuse? How do we do it? How do we
Mm,
stop the cycles of neglect, cycles of abuse?
yeah. It's got to be a multi-prong approach in my opinion, and so I'll go there. For one, we have to let kids know that they are valuable. And even when things don't work out, and I have conversations with my kids all the time, because sometimes, sibling can,
Yes,
get
sure.
things going. And so then I always go down to not what you're getting from the outside, who are you on the inside?
Yes,
So if your brothers don't want to play with you, are you now taking that as a means to define or redefine your value? Because
self.
if not, or if you are, then we need to kind of work on that because your value is not determined on anything that anybody does, says, or is towards you. Your value, you come here with it, and it is irrevocable. Okay?
Yes.
So getting down to that conversation, I think is critical. Separating the action and activity from the value. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, really getting them to see, all of the attributes, the gifts, and all of that, again, who they are, the unique way of looking at things, and then normalizing that because, quite frankly, we're all unique. There's none of us that thinks exactly the same way. So the question is, well, who told this person right here that their way of thinking is the way that everybody should think?
The epitome of the way that we
Yeah.
always think.
And so helping kids see that your unique way of thinking about things actually can be a major problem solver because when you're removed from something and you can look at it objectively, you're able to say, oh, well, why don't they just do that? You remember that story of the 18-wheeler that got stuck, the semi that got stuck under the bridge because it was a little too high and it got wedged. And then they, were trying to figure out, the fire department was there, all these entities where they're trying to figure out how to get this thing out of there. And then a little girl says, why don't you just let the air out of the tires?
Right. Yes.
Sometimes we just have to let the air out of our tires. We're
Right.
so blown up in a certain area that we get wedged. So we need that objective approach to just look at something from the outside, say, oh, you know what, if you just do this. So we need to let the kids understand that you have this unique ability because you have not been shrouded over with everybody else's groupthink on something to where you can't step out because, well, I don't want to be the odd man out or the odd woman out, and say something that nobody else accepts. Be okay with not being accepted because it just shows that you've got a unique way of looking at things. And maybe your season isn't right now, but you're building towards your season. So keep on going. Don't get stopped.
Fantastic advice. Wonderful. We appreciate that. So, Jason, if
Mhm.
our listeners and our viewers want more Jason Hodge, want more of the Jason Hodge, where can they find you?
Well, uh-oh. Is that me or? Okay, got okay. They can find me. They can actually go ahead and text me at 253-243-2452. There you go. 253-243-2452. And, they could just put in SPCC, and that way I know where they're coming in from. And then we'll stay in contact. And then as I have some ideas or whatever, I can go ahead and send it out to them. Hey, I just thought about this, or here's a great resource. I love providing resources. You know that already, Tracy. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and then we'll have a dialogue, and if I can help in any way, I love helping. I love providing solutions,
Yeah,
and I love seeing kids flourish. I think we should have more kid entrepreneur programs. I really do
great.
because you can get kids into that and then they won't be all over the place trying to figure things out. Give them a project and a project that's going to generate some income because that'll solve a couple of problems. Solve a job problem and it'll solve a valuation problem. They can see this is what I did and this is what it produced. And now I have the ability to do this again and again and again. So however many income streams I want to produce, I can do it just by going through these steps. So
Team building, leadership building, all of that.
absolutely,
Starting
absolutely.
professional development at a young age. I'm all for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again.
Thank
If
you.
you
Thank
want to get
you.
in touch with Jason Hodge, the number is 253-243-2452. Jason, you've been our guest on A Better Future Starts Here. American Society for the Positive Care of Children is very grateful that you shared your 100 days of value and all of your incredible insights. Um, we appreciate it.
Thank you. And I
So,
hope everybody gets involved with the 100 Days of Value. Hashtag 100 Days of Value. 100 Days of Value. Hashtag 100 Days of
okay,
Value.
yeah, let's do that. Let's do hashtag 100
100
days
Days of
of
Value.
value.
And it's very
Absolutely.
easy. All you have to do is just bring value to the space, whatever the value is for you.
Yeah.
So we're not even governing that. You choose what value you want to bring to your world and then put your hashtag 100 days of value, and then we will see it. And I'm going to be going back through and highlighting those things that pop up that is like, wow, this was an incredible story or an incredible ad.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
You know,
do that.
Jason, everyone has a purpose and everyone has a calling, like you
Yeah.
were speaking about a little bit earlier. And
Mhm.
these 100 days of value, you know, somebody may not know exactly what their purpose or calling is, but that's part of the journey and the
Yeah,
exploration that maybe through the 100 days of value, they are going to find what that purpose, what that calling is.
absolutely.
So it could be the beginning of a really exciting journey for some
Yeah.
people.
And they may even start out saying, I really don't know what the value is. And in that journey, we're seeing that unfold for them to where it's like, I didn't know, but all of a sudden, like light bulb moment, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that just my
Exactly.
participating in this journey was giving that value because it's letting other people know and giving them permission to do the same thing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. So
Yes.
again, we appreciate who you are. We
Thank,
appreciate your beingness, and we appreciate you being here with us.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Jason. Hang on one second. I'm going to do the outro, and you can wait right there for me.
All
So
right.
if you are looking for more resources like this episode of A Better Future Starts Here that you just heard, then please visit us at American SPCC, excuse me, visit us at americanspcc.org. And don't forget, while you're there, to download the Happy Child app. We love our Happy Child app. It helps you foster deep, deep connections with your children, not instantaneous happiness, but deep connections and bonds that will last a lifetime and that will bring your child, you know, help them create their own happiness for a lifetime. So having said that, if you know someone who is doing something amazing, terrific, tremendous in their community to help out children, caretakers, parents in their communities, lift their communities up. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from them. Please contact us at info@americanspcc.org. That's info@americanspcc.org. Let's make a difference together. And remember, a better future starts here.